Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste, welcome everyone. Happy to see you all. So who would like to begin today? Let us off in our conversation. I can see by looking at the screen that the room today is mostly filled with quiet ones. This is fine also. You don't need to talk about it. You don't need. The opportunity that I'm always offering for you to share your experience with the whole satsang, because I find that often what we talk about applies to more than one person here. But of course, the silence of being applies to all. The conversation really only helps us when needed move through the activity of the mind. Often, it's difficult for people to penetrate through the activity of the mind, the body experiences, but especially the activity of the mind. Until the mind understands something about what it's seeing or what is being felt. This is why it's useful. But in the final analysis, we always come to understand that understanding in the mind is just a gateway to penetration, to the return to the self. And the self, or the supreme, is recognized as oneself, then understanding in the mind becomes unnecessary. One sees this activity in the mind, in the emotion, in the body, as just some play in consciousness, rising for a moment, staying for a moment or a period of time, and then falling. When we see this impermanent nature, we come to see that nothing that happens or appears in body, mind, or world binds us. Everything is flowing as it's wont to do. And we realize that which is aware, that which is witnessing, observing, is the foundation, the screen, if you will, on which all of this is occurring. If we can move directly into this recognition, all conversations, inner and outer, can come to an end. And by coming to an end, I don't mean we'll never speak or we'll never have a conversation. I mean the attachment, the identification with the activity, the body, of the mind, ceases. And it's in this silence, without identification, that we realize freedom. And then everything that appears on the screen just allowed to remain as it is. The deep recognition that all of this is being, consciousness, and bliss is ours. Yes, okay. So can you see this statement in the chat room? I'll read it to you. It says, freedom is never for the person. Is this right? Yes. The person is bound by the circumstances, etc. There is a person who is bound. This is the time to ask, who am I? If there is this feeling or this perception that one is bound, then this is the foundation for inquiry. Who am I? Who is this one who is being bound? But consciousness is never bound, since nothing leaves a footprint on it. And I am not the person, but consciousness. That way am I free. Yes. Consciousness is itself ever free. It is never bound. So you actually have the right of it. It's only when this I rises in the form of identification. When I say the form of identification, I'm really referring to this one who feels bound. The I that arises as the self in our direct experience, in the body mind, is the simple I, for the direct experience of I am, or I exist. All of these ways it can be said. I. As soon as there's any identification, even, and this is true also, not just of worrisome or difficult or troubling circumstances for the mind or for the body in the experience. Not only true of that, but also when there is attachment to, grasping at, clinging to, pleasure, chasing after pleasure, desiring things to be other than how they are. And this is also a form of identification with the body. When I say identification with the body, understand that I'm talking about the body-mind complex, not just talking about the physical body, talking about the whole experience of body, mind, emotions, and world. This is one and the same. I am the body is just a simple reference for all these points where attachment is possible, or where identification is possible. So we can be identified with sensations in the body, with thoughts in the mind, even lofty thoughts. We can be identified with all sorts of transient experiences. As I said before, when we come to understand that all of the experiences are impermanent, transitory, and ultimately unsatisfactory as well. In other words, they contain nothing which provides lasting satisfaction. Whether it's an experience in the world, one in the body, one in the mind, or one in the emotion. When we come to see that all of these are moving, changing, shifting, and can be seen by that which is aware, then this concept of being bound, this feeling of being bound, goes. Because this feeling, being bound or being free, right, is one side or the other of the duality of freedom and bound. It's like all of the other dualities. The recognition, that which is aware, is here now and is seeing what is free and seeing what is bound. This recognition, and then the settling into, if you will, this prior state of recognition, frees one completely. from both the experience of being bound and the experience of being free. That which is, as being, consciousness, and bliss, simply is. It is here, prior to all experience, either side of any duality, whether it's freedom and bound or something else. So yes, freedom is never for the person. As we sit here in this moment with one another, if you have this sense that you are free or you are bound, ask yourself, who or what is being referred to, even in the experience, I am free. This I exists before freedom and before the experience of bound. Who is it? What is it? Knowing this, it becomes possible for you to just allow everything to be as it is. To know it as the self, as the supreme, without reservation, without doubt. Because, as you've said, consciousness is never bound. For the sage, for the one who has realized, circumstances can still be difficult. But this feeling or this sense that he or she is bound just isn't there. The circumstances are the circumstances. They can be beautiful, they can be difficult. They are the circumstances. That which is aware is not bound, even though the body, the circumstances, may feel limiting. They feel limited in body and in mind. Is the opportunity to ask oneself, who is it that feels that he is bound? In this way, we begin to cultivate an attitude that everything that is experienced can be let go of, can be seen, and even be examined, and then it can be released. We do this as a conscious process. Excuse me. We do this as a conscious process, but it comes out of our recognition that this is our experience anyway. No matter how hard we try to cling to anything, whether it's a sense of freedom or a sense of bound, it's in the body and in the mind or appears in the world. It is passing. Sooner or later, it will go. This is just a natural way of things in everyone's experience. What we are doing as sadhaks. We are entering into this process as conscious process, seeing how this process of not self, of letting go of what is not self, happens, and how we can assist it. This is for our own comfort. So the next comment is, we allow everything to just be as it is. Who or what is doing the allowing? So understand that the realm of instruction, so such a direction as an indicator is saying, allowing, this is all happening in the realm of mind. To feel that one is bound, or even that one is free, and have this be part of a mental, say, definition of oneself. This is what I mean by identification. It's part of a mental definition. The reason that we can say, or one can say, allow everything to just be as it is because there is somewhere deep within our own being a recognition that at that moment there is a not allowing which is happening. Even if this is very subtle, the feeling, if you will, or the remembrance, to go back to allowing is the indication that somewhere we have not been allowing. You see, this, both sides of a duality are always present, but often one is more subtle than the other. But if we come to the place where we recognize that what our practice, you can say, might be at this moment, is to fall back into this gentle allowing of everything to be as it is. This is just an indicator that there may be a gentle or not so gentle, not allowing which is happening. So all of this is happening within the mind. This takes us back to the very common metaphor that's used in India. Bhagavan used to use this all the time. He would say, take a thorn to remove a thorn. So understand that the premise is that there are thorns. This is the reason for this metaphor. One can get a thorn in the foot. But when this happens, you walk over to the thorn bush and break a thorn off. Remove the other thorn, throw both away. Mind is like this also. So in this case, Risha, in this example that you, for this question you put up, if we recognize that we're not allowing everything to be as it is, or we're suffering in some way, or we're disturbed or uncomfortable because of our resistance or attachment or clinging, then the remedy is allow, let go. So this is the thorn removing the thorn. So the first thing that has to happen is we must recognize that the mind is there, and from time to time the mind is troubling. So the question then naturally arises, aside from who am I, who is it that's experiencing? How can I move beyond, in a way, whatever this phenomenon is, whether it's a large upset or a small upset? And the answer is allow. This is all happening within the mind. In the mind of the sage, this question doesn't arise. But as long as we are here experiencing ourselves in terms of a reaction to one side of the duality or the other, then these kinds of terms are useful. And these are reminders to allow things to be as they are, to see them for what they are, and to not be disturbed by them, their movement on the screen of awareness. You know, the truth about any kind of a remembrance like this that we use during what we might call the practice phase of our seeking or our spiritual exploration, anything that we use does not need to be involving a large or a long process. Because the truth of the matter is, as soon as I recognize, oh, I have not been allowing, or I have been feeling bound, whatever it is, as soon as that is recognized, we are free of it. Why? Because we've realized I am that which is aware of this, of not allowing, of being bound. I am not this feeling of being bound. I'm not this feeling. I'm not diminished in any way by recognizing that a moment ago I wasn't allowing. It can be really useful or helpful to recognize that to be aware I am bound, or be aware I was not allowing a minute ago. Is to be free of that thought and to recognize I have seen this. Because I have seen this, I am free of it. I am not that thought. I'm free of the identification. I'm free of the experience. Now I am back in the clarity of my own being. Then we rejoice in that. Yeah, this is so true. Yeah, Rishi says, I sometimes still judge myself when I realize that I'm in the mind. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is just not necessary, is it? Yeah. You are not the mind. This is the teaching. This is also the direct experience of freedom. I am not the mind, not the body. And initially, of course, I mean, for a long period of time, this can still be some way just a conceptual recognition. But even the conceptual recognition, I am not the body and not the mind, even just to say this to oneself, using the mind, the thorn to remove the thorn. This is still, for you, the way I would like you to perceive it. This is the recognition of prior clarity. To say, I'm in the mind, is to no longer be in the mind. You see, in truth, there is no mind. Mind is just a bundle of thoughts. And these come from who knows where. These can come from circumstances, from the past, from projections into the future. Thoughts could just come and go. This is not the problem. This is why I never say to people, suppress your mind. This is ridiculous. The mind is just going to do what it does. It's going to come and go according to the circumstances in which it finds itself. But this is not any indication that this is who you are. This is just to recognize, oh, the mind is here. I can see that. Well, who can see that? Now we're moving back toward clarity. We say, oh, I am the mind. We go into this judgment. We go into this, how did this happen? What happened? How did I get from there to here? How did I get lost in the mind? This can go on forever. It can be nonstop proliferation of thoughts and emotions and internal mental experiences. But to say, who is seeing this? I am not the mind. But that's not enough, is it? Just to say, oh, I'm not the mind. It can be enough if you are very capable of swatting the mind away. It can be very easy to just go, not this, not this. I'm not this thought. Swat it away. But that may not be enough. You may need to say, I am not the mind. I'm not this thought. I'm not this thinking. And then follow that with, then who am I? If I am not this body, if I am not this mind, if I am not these emotions, if I am not this experience that the body mind is having at this moment, then who am I? Or what is aware here? Again, what we're always talking about here is a very simple and direct way to come back to clarity before all of this activity in body, mind, and world. What is before that? So we're always talking about a very direct path. But sometimes we have to employ these tools of what I refer to as conscious process. This is just a thorn to remove a thorn. We have various tools available to us. We use them when we need to, with the understanding that by doing so, there will come a time when we simply won't touch anything. Things will just come, they'll rise for a moment, they'll go. And the recognition, I am free, will be so firmly established that there won't be an urge to reach out and grab anything, any self-definition, and say, that is me. But as all of you have seen, to live without a self-definition, this is a challenge. This is not the habit of the mind. Habit of the mind is to try to find some place to say, oh, this is me. Oh, no, this is me. No, that's not me. This is me. And this is happening also in the enlightenment game. Oh, I am the sage. Oh, I am awake. Oh, I am the enlightened one. No, you are nothing. You are nothing. Awareness is. Consciousness is. But this is only knowable when this desire in you becomes so strong to know that you are nothing, or to know what is it that exists beyond me, without me, then it becomes possible to be free and to live in the world as it is. This is your natural state. It's not something you do, not something you're becoming. Just who is here. So I would just encourage all of you just to keep allowing yourself to be in situations that you're in, but don't cling. Just keep using the question, who am I? What is aware here? these kinds of aid to remove the thorn which is in your foot. Just allow that to be your way of being in the world. Eventually you come to recognize that who you are, who you have always been, is enough. You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to get anything. You don't need to get rid of anything. You don't have to grab at anything. You don't have to push anything away. That this beingness, which you are, which is the heart of your own self, is enough and everything. But certainly you realize along the way that which is here is enough. Yes, and when that state arises, Rishi says there is no concern if I am enough or not. There is no I there. There's no one there to be concerned. Yes. You know, realizing the self does not mean the end of the body-mind experience. It means that the end of attachment or identification with the body-mind experience. So every that natural state is just the way it is. But you're right. There's no one there to even consider or be concerned about, am I enough or not? This I that rises as that concern is just not there. That concern doesn't exist. That which is. So simple, so direct. So simple and direct that most often we look past it, we look over it. Don't see how simple this is. This is also a characteristic of mind. You may have noticed that mind appreciates complexity. So what we are doing in this circumstance of, say, speaking or practice, or however you want to put it, what's actually happening is we're moving kind of upstream against that flow of the mind that likes to move out into the complexity of its own thoughts, of the experiences of the body, the experiences in the world. The mind loves this kind of complexity. So when we say, what is enough, this goes against this conditioned tendency. But eventually, it becomes our natural state to do so. We simply don't. We learn right away, quite certainly. This is true of meditators in general. We learn quite certainly that moving into complexity, whether it's in our own thoughts or in our identification with the body, moving into that kind of complexity just begins to feel painful. Can be seen quite readily But the more we allow the mind to proliferate within our own experience, the more energy it takes, and the more we feel bound and trapped. Well, we sit quietly. We ask this question: what is aware? Who am I? Who is having this experience? Who is thinking this thought? And eventually, we see that the gaps between the thoughts, between the experience and the remedy for the experience, see that there is a gap. When we come to relax in that gap, we enjoy that gap. So we return more and more often, more readily, to this natural state of being, of awareness between the experiences of body, mind, and world. Initially, this gap between one thought and another, one sensation and another, one experience and another, may be very, very small. But as soon as we begin to notice that there is space and that these thoughts, sensations, experiences are arising in this space, as soon as we begin to notice that, we've begun the journey home. Because the natural state, the spaciousness in which everything is rising and falling, this is the space in which we are able to become very good at allowing things to remain as they are, without identification, attachment, or pushing away. Conscious process like this. Ultimately, the final recognition, that which is aware, is here now, comes with the understanding, recognition, the aha moment, that no conscious process was needed. I am always here. I have always been here. That which is aware is unborn, undying, eternal. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Be well, happy. Namaste.